There are two questions that we always ask ourselves, and we always look the answer for them. So the first one is we always trying to see and to understand who we are, our identity. And we always try to understand why we behave the way we do and why do we react differently to a same event. Okay? So these are questions that us human beings are always looking answer for. So why do we have different perception? Why do we see things differently? Why do we behave differently? All these are questions that we human beings always look for answer. In this video, I'm gonna show you, and we're gonna walk through what we called intuitive introvert, which is a term used by Carl Jung. So today we are going to understand in a very basic manner what is intuitive introvert, how they relate to the world, and how they act and why they act the way they do, what are some qualities that they have. So today we are going to go deeper into the concept of what Carl Jung called the intuitive introvert. But for us to begin, let us realize that we as human beings, we interact differently to the world. Okay. So we have different perception of the world and we have different perception of ourselves. Okay. And I'm going to show you why in a minute. And this is done by our brain. Okay. So this is the reason we see things differently and we act differently. That's the reason an introverted person act differently or behave differently than an extroverted person. Okay. So we're gonna walk through that throughout the video. So first thing we have to realize, let's say that this is you. Okay. And this is something happening in the world. So first thing we do as human beings, and that all of us do, we get information from the world. We get information from the external world, from what we call reality. Now, we get information from the world or from the reality through our five senses. Okay? So we have five senses, our five senses, that go and take the information from the external world and we take it into us. Okay? Now, for us to understand this information and act or react to this information, our brain must understand. Our brain must make sense of the information. Okay? So we must process the information in order for us to react. Okay? Now, you might be asking, why does the brain has to process the information? Okay? That is a very important question. Let me tell you why. The reason is because if you take the information from the external world, okay, and you don't process the information, you will not be able to understand the information and therefore react to the information. Okay? So that's the reason the brain has to process the information. Let me give you an example. If the brain was not able to process an information, and you see what will happen. For example, I have Mark here. You see, I say Mark, and he looked at me. The reason he looked at me is because whenever I say Mark, his brain knows that whenever I say his name, so he has to look at me. So his brain interprets the meaning of his name. Okay? Another example of why the brain interprets the thing that we get is let's say that you're driving, okay? You're driving and then you see the red signal. Okay? So what the brain does is it interprets the meaning of the red signal so you can stop the car. Okay? So that's the importance of the brain processing the information so you can understand and react to it. Okay. So let's say I'm talking to Mark. Okay. So if I'm talking to Mark and I'm saying a lot of information, like a lot of words, like I'm talking to Mark the same way I'm talking to you, the reason that you understand what I'm saying is because you understand the word that are coming out of my mouth. Okay. So your brain interprets that. Your brain processes that. Okay. So that is a very important thing. Now, one thing that you might be able to see when I was talking through this thing is the word or the fact does not mean anything unless the meaning you assign to them. The fact does not mean anything unless the meaning you assign to them. Let me give you an example. If you're driving and you see a red signal, you stop your car. That's because you understand that a red signal is for you to stop the car. But what if I told to Mark, whenever you see the red signal pop up 3 times, you have to cross the street? If I told Mark that previously, Mark would understand and would process the fact that the red line is going to pop up 3 times, so he has to cross the street. So the importance is the meaning of the thing. So it's not the thing itself, but the meaning that you assign to it. Okay? So the same example of the red light could mean a lot of things, but we assign the red line as a sign for any driver who sees it to stop the car. Okay, so that's the meaning, that's the value we assign to the thing. Okay, so that's the reason, in summary, that your brain has to process the information in order for in order for the information to make sense for you. Okay, so you can react. Now, Carl Jung discovered. Now, Carl Jung discovered that the brain has 4 ways, or there are 4 ways for the brain to process an information. There are 4 ways for the brain to process an information. By way of the brain to process the information, I mean the way that the brain organizes the information for it to analyze it. Okay? So Carl Jung was able to identify these 4. So we have the S, we have N, we have T, and we have F. I'm not sure if you can see it normally. My marker is not working. I have to change it. Every time I say that, I don't change it. That's very bad. All right. So Carl Jung identified that there are 4 ways for the brain to process an information. We have the feeling. The F is for feeling. That's a way of analyzing, a way of processing the information where your brain values feeling. Okay? So that's for feeling. The T, this is where your brain values the logic. So is this information make sense? Okay? And then we have the M, which is a way of processing information. This is intuition. And this is what we're going to focus today. And we have the S, which is sensual. So this is a person who's processing an information by the thing that we see, we smell, we touch. So this is the way of the person of processing the information. Remember, these 4 are ways that the brain uses to process an information. That's the way the brain organizes, arrange, so it can process the information. Okay? So your brain can analyze or process the information by feeling, by thinking, okay? So analyzing by logic, and by intuition, and by sensory factors. Okay? I am going to give you an example for every one of them, and then you can understand the difference on how a person processes the information. Okay, so let's say your brain. I'm gonna talk. There are two type of things. You might have a dominant way of thinking or way of processing, and you have a secondary way of processing. But let's take here an example. Let's say that you are going to the park, okay, and you're going to the park with your wife, and she enter the park and she sees some flowers. He said, baby, look at these flowers. They're very red. And look at this grass here. You see, they are very fresh flowers. Okay. I don't know if you can see that, but over there also this thing here. Can you see it? It's very fresh. Okay. So they're looking at details, at facts, at physical thing. Okay. So that's a way of processing the information. Does that mean only we have the flowers on the park? No, but that is what they see. And we're going to touch it later on focus, on how the brain select the information that the brain has to process, because the brain does not process any information that is given to her. Okay? So the brain has to select some information. For example, in my room, in the room that I'm here right now, I can focus on the whiteboard and the camera. I cannot be focused on the refrigerator, for example. Okay, so your brain select information that are valuable at the moment for it to process. Okay, so that's the example of someone that is focused on physical thing that it can you can see, smell, touch. Okay, so this is the first way of processing information. The second way is by intuition. A person who process information by intuition is a person who looks for patterns, who looks for meaning, and who looks for possibilities that there are. Okay, so the same person that is processing information by intuition, if the same person enter in the park, this person might say, "Okay, you see, this country, it's growing, so they have a lot of park, and look at these people here; they're enjoying the moment." And so they can see the deeper layers. They can see the meaning. So why do we have a park here? Okay. And then we have thinking. This is the person who try to make logic, to make sense of the information. They might ask, for example, uh, what is the cost to maintain this park? Okay. And then we have the feeling. The feeling is the person who processes the information. So they might say, for example, this place is very peaceful, and family can join here and have some times together. Okay, so for your brain to process information using any one of these, identify by Carl Jung, your brain must be focused on something. Okay, because at a certain moment of time, there are a lot of information out in the outer world. Okay, and your brain must be focused on one of them. Okay, and the information you get either from your smell, smelling it, touching it, your brain process that information. Now, there are two ways or two types of intuition. Okay, so and this is what we are going to touch here today in this video, like the main point. Carl Jung identified that there are what we call it's not working here. What we called introverted intuition and extroverted intuition. It's not working, but we have introverted intuition and extroverted intuition. Okay, so there are a lot of differences that you're gonna see on YouTube, that you're gonna see on Google. There are a lot of differences. People trying to see what is the personality type that they are. So they are running a lot of tests and seeing also videos on YouTube, and that there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm gonna make it simple for you. The main difference between a person whose intuition is introvert and another person whose intuition is extrovert is this. A person whose intuition is introvert think or has a way of thinking convergently. Okay? So they're both looking for meaning, patterns, and possibilities. But a person whose intuition is introvert is looking the deep truth about every event on life. Okay? Everything that are happening. So they're trying to link together the thing that are happening. Okay? And a person whose intuition is extroverted, they're also looking for patterns, for meaning, and for possibilities, but they are divergently. It's a divergent way of thinking. Okay, so these are the type of person that has a lot of ideas. Okay, and that can see new possibilities. Now, based on these two ways of thinking, we have a convergent way of thinking for intuitive introvert, and we have intuitive extrovert, which is a divergent thinking. We have different qualities. Okay. And that's the reason people say, for example, a person who is introvert likes solitude. Okay. So the reason for that, remember, the ways of thinking makes or creates qualities for the people or for the person. Okay. So one of the cons for intuitive introverts, for example, is going to be overthinking because they're always analyzing, they're always processing to see what is the deep truth, what is the deep truth that connects each event. Okay, and the con for an extroverted intuition could be the lack of focus because they have so many ideas. Okay, so they are able to have so many ideas, so they can't focus on them. Okay. And these are also the type of person, the one that are intuitive extrovert, who likes a lot of friends, who likes people that are talking. They are very charismatic. So there are people that can communicate, that can relate to people. Now, an intuitive introvert, based on his ways of thinking, which is a convergent way of thinking, they are more like to be thinking about deep thing. They want also to communicate, but with people that understand the thing that they are analyzing or they are trying to understand because they understand the deep layers of things, the meaning of things. Okay. So they are the people that always ask the why. Why does thing happen? And what is the meaning behind it? Okay. So they're not looking at the factual data that they have, but they're looking at the meaning of the factual data that they have. So these are some characteristics of an intuitive introvert. Okay. Which is one way of thinking identified by Carl Jung. Now, what's the importance of that? The importance of that is for you to identify your strength, okay? It's for you to identify what is your weaknesses, okay? It's for you to identify how you communicate with people, okay? So that's the importance of knowing what is your way of thinking, what is your way of of processing, of analyzing information. That's the importance of it. Now, you might say that I do have all of them, but it's not technically the case because Carl Jung identified that all people have a dominant way of thinking. So it might be on data, intuition, thinking, or feeling. So all human being has a dominant one. The dominant one is the one that they use normally, that on a daily basis. And the secondary one, which is either one of these, is the one that they use to support the first one. Okay, so they can have this balance on their thinking. Okay, so that's the reason you might identify that you have more than one of these ways of thinking. So think about it and let me know in the comment which way of thinking do you think is your dominant way of thinking. What is the natural way you process information? Is it based on feeling, on value, on person, on emotion? Is it based on the on logic? So you try to make sense of the thing? Is it based on intuition? Or is it based on fact, on details? Let me know in the comment which way of thinking do you think that you are using right now.